Mmm. Bourbon.
Ooh. Yeah. All right, there's that.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm Perry, and your host, and Curtis and Swan are back. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hi. I think I really, A, caught Swan really off guard with that one, and B, you know what? I don't really know what Curtis was doing there. Was that the pregnant pause? Is that what we were? Okay.
I don't think it was really anything.
You seem very tired today.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
That's okay. So, welcome back to the show, everybody. Of course, we're so happy to have you here.
Man. It was so long.
Long weekend?
Yeah. Just like terrible. Anyways.
A couple of things up top, of course. First and foremost, tickets are still on sale for the very first live edition of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. That is going to be April 6th in Louisville at the Silver Dollar, and that is going to be featuring Women of Bourbon. And Peggy No Stevens is going to be on that panel along with Sarah from It's Bourbon Night and Andrea Wilson from Michter's. Tickets are only $5 a piece. There are less than 20 left right now. So you can find the ticket link in the description below. That's that. I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. I kind of alluded to it when Chad and Sarah were on Harry Potter and the Half Drunk podcast, where we talked about Harry Potter things. So if you are a nerd, much like I am, and would like to go listen to me ramble about nerd things, go do that. The link to that will also be below. Let's see, what else? I think that's about it as far as like my announcements up top. You guys got anything? No?
Nah, not really. I'm just here to drink, man.
Swan's feeling very low-key today.
Yeah, I'm just chill, you know.
Yeah. It's a gross kind of rainy
Oh, it's so, yeah.
night, so yeah.
Then yesterday was like -8.
Ugh.
Today's 50, rainy. This is supposed to freeze over.
I'm not excited about that by any means. So
This is good though.
Yeah. So this is what Curtis is alluding to is our first pour of the show, which goes to our Flying Blind segment, where I pour something for the guests and they do not know what it is, and I've actually not had this before.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. I feel like I've had it before, but I guess if
Yeah.
you haven't had it, then I probably haven't had it. It's young.
It smells familiar. I'll say that much.
I don't know. It's almost got like a Dust Bunny-ish funk to it.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'm not getting as much of
It's
a
not
funk.
as strong, but there's something there.
It's kind of green too, and I don't mean green in like a young way, but there's some kind of grassiness to it as well on the nose.
I'm a little like lemongrass.
It's certainly not bad on the palate.
No, I like it.
I don't mind that.
It's light.
It is a little
seems
light,
like
yeah.
a little younger. I don't think it's like anything. Like
Yeah, and I don't know the age statement
too
on
well.
this.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't taste.
It's
We'll
light.
talk about it when we get to the
Yeah,
reveal, of course.
Just
but
light
yeah,
to me.
it's kind of Buffalo Trace reminiscent,
A little bit. I
like-
get that.
like just regular or Ancient Age, almost. Like it's in that ballpark of like a lower proof bourbon, but it still presents some of those characteristic flavors. But it's not really going out of its way to do anything too exciting or too game changing.
Yeah.
Anything. That being said, though, it's certainly pleasant.
Yeah, it's got something on Ancient Age for me. Like, Ancient Age for me is like a real one-note kind of deal. But it's a good note. This has got a little bit of a switch up in it. Not much, but it's a little more complex than that. It is low proof for me.
Yeah.
Feeling-wise.
But, I mean, that's why I'm kind of going, it's between, like, Buffalo Trace and Ancient Age in terms of flavor profile.
Yeah, I could
like it's
definitely
it's
see
not
that.
really one way or another. It's just kind of there. So grab the bottle.
So what are we drinking, Perry?
You're drinking as I reach for it. Black Ridge Small Batch Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Really?
You did something evil.
I
with
did
this.
something evil to Swan yesterday with
All right,
this.
hold up.
Okay.
Before we get to this, I'm breaking this down for a second. All right, so
Give me that bottle. I want to see.
I've got this really dumb talent, if you want to call it that, of like recognizing bottle shapes. Like I pointed out that the New Riff bottle was the same bottle as E.H. Taylor, and Perry was like, "What? No."
Well, I never noticed it, and then I compared
Totally
it, and
is.
it was like, oh my gosh.
Well, then Perry used it against me, flipped it on me here. This bottle's the exact same as all the Pappy lineup.
It is the exact same Pappy shape.
Even has the exact same kind of like foil up at the top, but it's gold. Same cap, same everything.
Huh.
And then he just sent me a picture of the neck of the bottle. Like, guys, guess what I got? And I'm like,
That's awesome.
That's what I sent them.
and I was like, Perry.
I'll share it on social media
Like,
too.
Perry, what is this? What? You can't be doing this to me. The season's over, man. And then he sends me this. And not that I'm not excited. I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
Why is a very good question. So I saw this yesterday at Liquor Barn. Never had seen this bottle before. Didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
$28.
Okay.
It's not age stated, but it is. It does say Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, so it's at least 2 years. But it if it doesn't have the age, then it's over 4 years. So I'm assuming it's at least a 4-year-old bourbon. 90 proof. I honestly know nothing about this product. I tried doing a little bit of research on it yesterday and just kind of came up short.
Not finding much.
No, not really.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall,
Pretty satisfied with it.
I'm not really upset by it at all.
Yeah, for a distillery I've never heard of that's not charging $60, that's pretty good.
And it's bottled by the Clear Spring Distilling Company in Louisville. So it's very possible because
Is
it
it
doesn't.
sourced somewhere?
That's what I was about to say. Is because it only says bottled. It's highly possible that it could have been sourced from somewhere, or I mean, the fact that we're kind of getting those Buffalo Trace notes off of it,
Could be Buffalo Trace.
it could very well be Buffalo Trace. So that was Flying Blind. Was something that
That's fun.
I really kind of blinded myself on it too. I mean, not essentially, but
Yeah, you didn't know what it was.
I didn't know what it was going to be like. I had no idea if there was going to be any kind of quality to it. But
Well, it's in a Pappy bottle. It's got to be good.
It's in a Pappy
I mean, yeah.
and I'm not going to lie, that was a little bit of the reason why I bought it. I mean, not because like I was going, oh, it's going to be so good, it's going to be the next Pappy, or it's going to be on par with Pappy, or whatever. I was just like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of me that was going, oh, this is going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that does it for Flying Blind. But now I got to ask you guys, so we can get into this week's episode, what you been drinking recently?
A little bit of everything, Perry. More specifically, I've been working on a bottle of the 1792 Full Proof. We got a pick from the store that I've been trying to finish up. And then also more Wilderness Trail. I mean, that's like a pretty common theme now in my life.
To be honest, I haven't been drinking much of anything.
I've really slowed down
It's been like, I think last time was the first, like I've drank bourbon.
Yeah.
Really anything.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had stuff.
I mean, sure, I've had like, I guess something, but
Yeah.
I've slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah. I had to too.
Yeah. It was just one of those things. It was like, all right.
I was like, even just like a couple of days off here and there.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even
was
like, I was, it's like, I'm not alcoholic level
Right,
type deal. It's
exactly.
just like, man, I'm kind of burning out a little bit. So,
Yeah. And, it's funny. This is a conversation for another time. Actually, you know what? We have done a getting burned out on bourbon episode before. I just realized that.
yeah.
Maybe we'll do another one sometime in the future.
The 2019 edition.
The Redux.
Yeah.
It is.
It wasn't so much that I was necessarily getting burnt out, but, once I like stepped back from it for a couple of days, I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not going, oh, I just can't wait to have a drink.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was nice to kind of let my body like.
Yeah, just have a
Recharge
relax period kind of deal.
That being said, though, I've had a couple of pretty cool things that I drank recently. So you're hearing this, not the Wednesday after, but 2 Wednesdays after the Big Blind Bourbon Taste Off at Whiskey Bear, which was at the Summit at Fritz Farm in Lexington, Kentucky. And I did not do well, but Chad and Sarah came in third. Well, they tied for second, which kudos to them and everything. That was fun. It was a good experience to kind of test my limits and, you know, see how I actually fared. Didn't fare as well as I thought I did. I got 1 right out of all 4 of them, and it was Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Okay.
And I was pleasantly surprised by that. The day after, my buddy Iverson from OBC, who also competed and also didn't do well, he came over to the house, first time over in the studio / bourbon room, and he goes, I got something I'm going to bring you. And I posted about this on social media, but he goes, I got something important or good for you. I was like, okay, great. So he brings over what was really what I've said is my first turning point bottle. And it was a 4 Roses OBSO from BHG or OBC. Yeah. And I had not had it in seriously like 3 years. And I was just, I made him, didn't make him, but he gave me a couple of samples of it too, just so I could kind of have it to hold, forever. And it was a good moment for me to remember why I started drinking bourbon the way that I do and why the podcast is so important to me and everything. But it was just a nice little rediscovery of a time capsule, I would say.
Did it hold up?
100%.
That's good.
It was better now than it was then.
That's good.
Which is something that I never thought that I would say, you know, after all this time. But I think being more seasoned now, I was able to enjoy it more. I mean, clearly, you know, I didn't know what I was doing at that point, but it was everything that I remembered it being and then some. So, yeah. I've been drinking anything else? Oh, I was on a wild turkey pick today for OBC as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. We picked a Russell's and a Kentucky Spirit. And I have a little suicide bottle as well.
Fun.
So it smells fantastic. It smells amazing. I'll let you guys try it a little bit if you want. But anyway, okay. So that does it for what we've been drinking. So our topic for the episode, and I meant to address this with our Flying Blind, but it's small batch bourbons, which I don't think we've ever actually full on tackled on the show before. But we'll do, this small batch episode, talk a little bit about, you know, our feelings towards small batch, what makes them, you know, important to the bourbon world. And then, you know, sometime, maybe next month or a couple months from now, not sure yet, we'll do a single barrel episode as well and kind of retouch on some of these points. But we have some drinking to do.
Got some small batch bourbon.
We got some small batches.
Yep.
So let's see. One of these things is not like the others.
Yeah, it's real different.
And it's Clyde May's Alabama whiskey?
It's Alabama style whiskey. So I've done
Which means they put apple peels.
Yeah.
What?
So apparently
Who does that?
This is what I heard from one of the reviews that I watched on one of these is they put apple peels as a part of their bourbon. They kind of infuse it. Supposed to give it a real apple-y taste.
Well, I'd hope so.
Yeah, I'd really hope so.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm picking up apple.
Hints of apple peel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's
it's
because
funny
we
you
just
should say
shove them in there.
Yeah.
There are just apple peels all in that bitch.
Just crack. Not even going to say that one. Continue, Swan.
We just hollow out the entire tree, dump the bourbon in there. It's fine, guys. Either way, we've actually had this before, and it was just okay. Now we're going back to it because I've tried it last night along with every other small batch I own.
Whew, that went well for Swan.
Yeah.
That's what you've been drinking recently.
You didn't even
Every
mention
single
that.
small batch, yeah. It's opened up well. The apple's apparent. I'll let you guys see that. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Well, as Swan is pouring that, let's talk a little bit about what small batch is. So, small batch bourbons or whiskeys really weren't super established until the dawn of Booker's small batch bourbon, which of course is the namesake for Booker No, former master distiller at Buffalo. Wow, at Jim Beam. Way to go, Perry.
Struggle.
I've been drinking whiskey since this morning,
Yeah.
but I had a long break in the middle, so
It's all right. There can be excuses there.
that's fine. Yeah, I poured too much. Perry pour.
You're fine.
Now, Clyde Mays, is there a different label that
Yes.
I've seen?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's their old bottle.
This is
Okay.
the
Their
old
old label.
one. And
Gotcha.
if you
Because
go
I've
to-
seen the new one, and I was actually at Total Wine today,
And you saw it.
and I saw it, and I was like, that's not what I saw. I was like, that seems weird.
This
but
is
okay.
an older label that I found. I wouldn't necessarily call it a Dusty. I think they changed their label like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's
Something like
nothing
that.
too
And
crazy.
instantly you get apple pie.
Yeah, and so this one is the Canuck Ridge. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. It's 85 proof. It is really, really dark for what it is. Perry's making a face.
It's apple.
It's apple. Is there? There's not much.
You're not getting like
I mean, I'm getting some oak. I'm getting like, you know what though? It's more apple juice than it is like, or like an apple cider than it is just tasting apple peels,
Yeah.
which is really bizarre. And
okay, you're getting cider. I'm getting more apple. I'm getting
Yeah?
more like crisp apple.
I think what the reason I'm picking that
Like a
up,
crisp red apple.
Right.
Don't think like Granny Smith, you know? No green apples in that one.
get that out of here.
Yeah, no granny stuff in here, man.
But the reason I think I'm picking that up is because the mouthfeel for me is really creamy. And, you know, I associate like apple cider with that thicker mouthfeel. But aside from that, that's it.
Yeah, there's not a
It's
whole lot going
apple.
on.
This would get, I mean, like, you know, some people, myself included, from time to time, will put bourbon or whiskey in their apple ciders. This
that
would
what you
get
get?
lost.
Oh, okay.
No, this would get lost.
No, this would just make it alcoholic apple cider.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be
nothing
able, you wouldn't be able to taste the alcohol at all. I mean, you maybe actually you'd be able to taste the alcohol from the whiskey, but you wouldn't be able to taste the whiskey itself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be like if you, I don't know, if you ate a whole thing of like a whole spoon of sugar, and then you took a bite of chocolate cake, like you wouldn't taste the sugariness of the cake. You would get all the other little flavors that are
Yeah.
in there too. This just would completely, it would just get lost in the drink.
Yeah.
I get the impression that like how this stuff ages is super different than bourbon because they have so many different releases, and it's like 8, 9 year, 10-year cast strength. They really go through different releases for Clyde Mays.
And do they maintain the Alabama whiskey
Yeah, throughout.
thing throughout it? That's really strange to me.
Now, is all Alabama whiskey like that?
I have no idea. I mean,
I mean,
it could just
yeah,
be.
this-
It's not like the Lincoln County process that Perry brought up. Like it's not. This doesn't seem like a super official thing. They could just call it, which whatever they want, really.
Yeah. Mhm.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I just was wondering if, you know, strictly to Alabama, do they have this apple crisp thing? Or is it really just more towards like Clyde May?
I have no idea. I think Perry might be.
I'm just curious on what that would be.
I'm sorry. What
With
was your
that being
question?
said, I'm not like offended by it. I
Oh no, not by
I
any
wouldn't
means.
say this is like whiskey. I guess you have to, but
I don't think I would drink this very often.
no.
I gotta be honest with you.
No, it's opened up
like
better
apple
than what
water.
it was.
Apple water.
It's opened up better than what it was. It is still not something I'd reach for very often.
No, I wouldn't either.
But it's a small batch.
If
on
I
it.
had one bottle, I would.
Yeah, one
you know, I
bottle's
would
enough.
drink it till it's done, but I wouldn't ever probably go back and get it.
Well, that was an odd experiment there with that whiskey.
Yeah,
I would
It
say.
definitely broke up what I was expecting. I was
Oh,
not
yeah.
expecting to have apples today.
I mean, I was ready for.
it's like
What's
VA
the nutrition
juice.
value on this?
I don't know. I'm getting my servings of fruit in today.
There's some kind of salad in there as well,
Yeah.
too. Yeah. So let's chat a little bit more too about what makes small batch. So it's really interesting because there's no clear definition set forth by the TTP or the FDA or anybody as to what small batch whiskey is. And from what I understand, it's anywhere from 2 to maybe 15,000 barrels.
Okay.
Like,
So it's a big kind of gap.
right, yeah. So, like, Eddie Russell defines Turkey 101 at 15, 16, 17,000 barrels, still as his small batch. But, I mean, I think by definition, as long as you're not using just one barrel, which is then a single barrel, you know, if you're using 2 or 3 or 4, that could still be considered a small batch product.
Yeah. So it's like so is a single barrel considered a small batch and a small batch considered a single barrel?
A single barrel is considered a small batch. Yes, it's the smallest of small batches.
Yeah.
But no,
But
a small batch can't be a
wouldn't-
single
can't
barrel.
Be a single barrel.
Yeah, because it consists of
That's a fun little.
yeah. All bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where
Same kind of dichotomy.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
It feels like just a marketing thing.
I don't think that it was ever intended to be one when it was first envisioned
Yeah.
by Sir Booker Noe himself. But yeah, I think at this point it is kind of a marketing thing. But you know, Monica, who is one of our patrons,
But then you get into single, it's single barrel. So it's gonna not be a marketing thing as much.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you're having a specialized thing.
That's true.
Experience. So that's why small batch is a thing.
Yeah. But Monica, who's one of our patrons and listeners, wants us to do an episode on whether or not bottled and bond is still relevant in today's bourbon or whiskey market. And I think that same kind of argument may apply. Not necessarily is small batch relevant, but is it at this point just a marketing gimmick or a marketing tactic?
Mm-hmm.
It could be. Like, it's hard to tell if, like, a small batch was somebody that went in, found a couple of barrels that they wanted to put together and kind of curated a small batch, or if it's Buffalo Trace decided, let's empty out warehouse, whatever, dump it all into one vat and bottle it and call it small batch. I don't think they would do that, just as an example.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it could be just a marketing thing for some, and others it could be what really defines what they're making.
I don't think it's strictly a marketing ploy.
I don't think so either.
I think it's like genuinely a thing.
Yeah, I think it can be misconstrued as something that is
It's such
a
a
marketing
broad
ploy. But yeah, exactly. Like it is a broad spectrum of, a certain type of product.
Yeah. And so maybe there should be like some sort of categorization within the small batch. But then you get into this like micro kind of like like magnifying glass of okay, so what does this, and then you get so into that like then nobody can understand it, nobody gets it. So I feel like you just lump it all into small batch and figure it out yourself.
Right, but then you look at companies like Jefferson's.
Mm-hmm.
They have
Very small batch.
special, very small batch.
Yeah.
Or Heaven Hill with Larceny, and they call it like extra small batch or special small batch or
And
something
maybe that's
like that.
their way of saying like categorizing it.
Yeah,
A little bit. Of
yeah.
Like, hey, this is very small.
But at that point, what does that mean?
But then it becomes marketing.
Yeah. And
But everything.
I mean, sure, it's, it may separate you from other people, but, I also think that we're at a point in bourbon where people want to know what's in the bottle. They want to know what's in the glass. How old is it? What's the proof? How long, whatever. I'm just saying, like, what is the background on it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you start to add these qualifiers to it, like very small batch or extra special small batch or something like that, it gets a little bit harder to, give a definition to it. But, it's so separate from single barrel.
Yeah.
Because single barrel is a
one barrel.
A one barrel.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know.
I feel like there should be some sort of categorization of, hey, this is single barrel, it's a small batch, and then like, okay, this is a very small batch up to, 10,000 barrels or something, I don't know. And then, okay, well, this is you'd like, as a marketing person, like you'd want to have cooler names than like very small batch, medium batch.
Yeah.
But.
And like, I of course don't have the, any kind of power to like propose that to the TTB.
Yeah.
But I think that is something that could potentially be explored in the future.
As the market grows.
Yeah, and especially as new distilleries are opening and all new expressions are opening up with different products and everything. But let's talk about what we have in the glass right now. This is a rear age stated Elijah Craig small batch.
And also proof that Swan can't read.
94 proof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. I understand what you're saying now.
Oh, yeah.
So a little history on this bottle then, now that you've brought that up. Swan stumbled upon this little liquor store, and you've heard this on the show before. But he found an old-style bottle of Elijah Craig small batch, and he goes, well, I checked the back, and there's no age on the back. Curtis, I want you to read that very first sentence for me there.
Let's see. Perfection takes time, and at 12 years old...
I honestly thought there'd be like a red 12 somewhere on the back. Flipped it over.
He wants it like just giant on the front. Like,
well, but that's how it used to be.
This is 12 years old.
Yeah. Well, that's really how it used to be.
That's how it used to be. Yeah,
it used to have a giant 12 on the front.
Big red
Bright
12.
red.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Not this one. Just says that.
No.
But so Swan goes, it wasn't on there, and I was like, well, I'm gonna hop over there, and I'm still probably gonna pick it up, even if it doesn't have the.
Said, yeah, I'll take
and
it.
I brought it to the counter, and he was checking me out, and I was like, well, I'll just look on the back just in case, and I turn it around and I go, oh, there's an age on here.
It's all right. I still get to drink it. It's fine.
You do. You know what, Swan? Come over and. This will be the first thing I pour for you.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
And you're going to be over here like every other day, and I'm going to run out of this very quickly.
Swan, you got to stop. You can't keep coming over like this.
The bottle's gone, Swan.
I need it.
There will be something that I say about small batch. I see it as what I'm about to drink is consistent.
Exactly. And I've said that for a while, too, yeah.
Yeah, and because I know when I get a single barrel, like particularly... I've had E.H. Taylor single barrels that vary so much.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, and, the small batch is always consistent. It may not be as good as some of the single barrels, but it's going to be, this is what we wanted our product to taste like.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it says to me. And it's not like that on every single bottle you pick up, but a lot of the big brands, that's definitely the case for it. So.
Well, I think that what we don't realize, too, or what maybe the casual bourbon drinker doesn't realize, too, is that even though... some of these brands or some of these expressions don't necessarily put small batch on their label. Some of those more standard offerings are still small batch. Buffalo Trace is a small batch of bourbons from 8 to 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Turkey 101, 6, 8, and 12.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just 6 and 8. I'm thinking of Rare Breed, which is 6, 8, and 12. Sorry. But, that small batch is still, I think, just kind of this general understanding that it is the consistency that's important to it. So I'm totally on board with you there. I want to point out for a second, though, while I was talking, you took a sip of this and you made a face. What happened?
It's got the normal Elijah Craig with extra heat.
And it's all in the middle of the palate.
Yeah, it's like it's almost drinking like almost like a Elijah Craig barrel proof with some extra water in it.
Yeah.
Which, for me, I always take the Elijah Craig barrel proof at pretty much the highest proof they can put out. It's usually what I'm going to lean towards.
Wouldn't that be correct though? A little bit. That it is like the Elijah Craig barrel proof, but
No, that's exactly
watered
correct.
down.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's still a 12-year product,
Yeah,
you know.
but I mean, it's kind of got the heat from the barrel proof, but the same proof as the current small batch they're putting out. Just different.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
Different, but
necessarily
weird,
say that
but
I
same.
like dislike this one more than what they're putting out now, but it's definitely different. I think it's easier to pick apart flavors out of the new one.
I think so too. Yeah, and I think that's, you know, I've been one to say, yeah, I like the new one, the non-age stated one, better than I did the age stated one. That being said, I mean that was really kind of a product of me having tried the age stated right after I opened it and going, I don't know about it. But this has really opened up well.
Yeah,
I would say that much.
I like the nose on this one better than what the current small batch, but I think I would almost lean towards the palate of the current small batch.
I think so too. And not that I mind the heat that's on the palate, because I mean I do kind of enjoy a little bit of an alcohol burn.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that in terms of like a general everyday sipper, one that's still kind of versatile, I still think that the new small batch is a really good product. So, I don't know. It's still good. I still like the age-stated one.
It makes me not want to spend a crazy amount on an age-stated one just to say that I had like the old one now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
But I mean, like, I bought this at retail, you know, so $25, $30. So it didn't set me back a whole lot. It just, you know, my fortune was Swan's misfortune. Oh, no, wait, no. Swan's misfortune was my fortune.
Yeah. It's all good. I mean, honestly, a lot of my stuff goes towards, you know, the podcast and to
You are the
Chad's
bourbon
stuff.
finder, after
So
all.
it's perfectly fine. It's just Elijah Craig is arguably one of my favorites. So it's hurts a little, but it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
I still feel bad.
I got my revenge though. The cork completely fell apart.
The cork did break off. Yeah, so...
and I got to watch it live.
yes, I did that on a live stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was...
I was wondering what happened. I was
yeah,
like,
so...
I thought maybe that was just how they did the old
oh, no.
bottles, and I was like,
oh, no, it was
oh,
much
all
prettier.
right.
So when I found it, I think maybe I had a live stream that night or like a couple days after or something. And I was saving it and I was all excited and everything. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about, you know, like, oh, I've always said that, you know, the newer stuff's better and everything. And I'm like, here we go. And I take it off and the plastic
Crumble.
bit that was on the cork just comes completely off. And like the glue had separated from
Yeah.
it. And it was so anticlimactic.
It
Yeah.
ruined the stream for like 3 minutes because Perry was just
Because I couldn't stop laughing.
So
I couldn't stop laughing. It was the funniest
That's how
thing
that
that's
works.
ever happened to me
Yeah.
on that stream.
The new one's better, I think. Maybe it's just different, but
I think the new one's
I like
better
the new
too.
one.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
just,
good.
Just kind of overall.
This is good too. It's just I think the new one is kind of more well-rounded. It's not as
yeah. And you know, let's see how many episodes in a row I can say this. This is 2, but I've always kind of said Elijah Craig small batch is what I imagine bourbon should taste like.
Yeah.
Or what I always imagined bourbon should taste like.
And it's a good price. It's like
Yeah.
it's great for the quality. I think.
Do you think it's overlooked on the shelf? Because
I think
No, I don't.
really.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty well respected.
I think it's well respected. I just think that it's overlooked because a lot of people go, "Well, I want to try something else."
And it could be because I live in Frankfurt, and like every time I've ever worked in a liquor store, it's pretty
Yeah.
much like handles of Ancient Age, Benchmark, Buffalo Trace, just
Yeah.
flying out the out the store, and then one person might pick up Elijah Craig in a day. It just could be
That's
preference.
But I mean,
I think it's because you could probably find it.
That's fair.
You can find it like anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Well, I think this kind of brings up an interesting point, too, not just about availability, but also about price in regards to small batch. So let's start with availability. Inherently, you are going to be able to find more versions, or you're going to be able to find more bottles of a small batch bourbon than you would be a single barrel.
Yeah.
Whether that be a pick or just the standard offering, say, Knob Creek single barrel or Russell's Reserve single barrel or whatever.
Yeah.
There are just going to be more bottles of the small batch version of it. So I am a firm believer in the fact that there are people who see that many bottles of it on the shelf and go,
I don't think I want to try
it must not be that good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can totally
Or they
see
go,
that.
yeah, sure, that's good, but I want to be special. I want to I want to try something that I want to be the person that brings something that says, ooh, I brought.
Right.
Even
right.
if it's not as good of a product.
Yeah.
There is something to that, because if we get some new bourbon in at the shop, even if it's like OZ Tyler and it sits behind the counter, people are like, what's that?
What are you doing with OZ Tyler behind the counter?
Because we don't want to put it on the normal. Well, good for them. But, as soon as it sits behind the counter, people are like, oh, that must be new. Is that something special? Like, when did that come in? It's like, it's only $20.
I think it's more, a lot of people just don't, they aren't educated about what and where things are placed. Not like where they're placed. I'm just meaning like people aren't educated on, oh, OZ Tyler? Like, yeah, why is that behind there? That's great. They don't know that oh, it's probably not going to be that good.
Yeah, I guess it's like an exclusivity thing. I think if I can get something special.
I think so, too.
It's a psychological thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
More
all
so.
it's all about marketing psychology.
Yeah, so
I
I think that's probably has quite a bit of it.
Yeah. We kind of strayed off from the point that I was making, though, in that, it also kind of ties back to what Swan was saying about consistency. If you're expecting a larger yield from a product, yes, it should be more consistent. You don't want to have an extreme inconsistency between, different bottles.
Yeah.
The other point, though, that I wanted to make was about price. So I think kind of maybe it wasn't the intention, but maybe a little bit more inherently, small batch products are a more accessible price. So, I keep going back, of course, to Knob Creek, but Knob Creek small batch is what, $30, $35? Mm-hmm. Knob Creek single barrel is $45 to $50, unless it's a pick, and then it gets into 55 to 60, depending on where you are. But I think that in terms of marketing, in terms of trying to get people to buy your product, it almost seems like small batch is going to be in your favor, not just because of the consistency or the availability, but also because of the price. Mm-hmm. It may not seem like much, but when you are between two bottles at the store, and you've got one that's $30 and another that's $40 in either of your hands, unless you can really spring for it, I think that a general consumer is going to go more for the lower priced option.
Mm-hmm. Or are they going to go for the more expensive? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to go for the cheaper. Like, if I had Old Granddad 114...
General consumer, yeah.
If I had Old Granddad 114 in my left hand, and then I had the Old Forester 1920 in my right hand, that's like a $20 difference, right? Something like that?
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the Old Granddad all day long. I mean, it's hard to do that. And they're pretty similar as far as proof goes and age. So, I mean, I don't know. I tend to go cheaper unless it's something special, behind the counter.
But
OZ Tyler?
No.
I don't know if I told you or not. I think I did. I found another bottle of the Bellmead Cast Strength that made it onto my top 10 the other day. And I picked it up. You know, and I mean, there were plenty of other options, but I also am well stocked on my daily drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on my $20 bottle of Turkey 101, you know, or my $20 handle of TW Samuels.
Yeah, that stuff's
You know?
good.
Yeah, I know, it's great. But the point that I'm trying to make, though, is that, like, I guess I'm kind of agreeing with you, though. You know, yeah, there is a chance that, you know, I would want to buy, you know, the more expensive bottle from time to time just because it's more expensive. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I got lost along the way there.
Yeah,
but.
I mean that makes sense. I just think sometimes as a general consumer, you go, well, maybe I'll just spring for the, you know, more expensive because I don't really know. We would know. Well, this is probably going to be a, you know, I'm not going to spend the extra $20 for, it's pretty much the same stuff, like same juice kind of thing. Where then a general consumer that who's just like likes bourbon or wants to try something new or try a small batch, they're probably going to be like, well, if it's more expensive, it's going to be more. Yeah, it's going to be better. So
it's the Pappy effect, man.
It's just
Pappy's America.
But that's like very like psychological, like getting into the marketing ploys. But I think that's and how that works.
But I think that's important, especially when you're talking about the difference between small batch and single barrel.
Yeah,
you know, I mean they are, as far as marketing goes, two very different animals.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when we get to our single barrel episode, we'll talk more about it. But
yeah, like I don't want to call it a ploy, you know, like a marketing ploy.
It's a gimmick.
It's just a tactic.
Yeah.
I think it's just a tactic that, you know, that everybody's doing. Everyone's running a business and trying to figure out, like, what works best. And for the most part, they've really just they've found a good spot. Sorry. Perry's opening a Knob
just
Creek.
Falling apart everywhere.
And the wax is just all over the place.
Yeah, so this is actually this is also a Knob Creek small batch, but this is age stated. And yeah, I was kind of holding on to this bottle for a little while, but I figured this was a good opportunity for it.
That's pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll go Glencairns with these.
Glencairn?
I've not had this.
You've not had the age stated one?
Nope. Not
really?
Age stated, yeah.
It's you know what? I'm not going to say anything about it.
You know what's funny about Knob Creek? My experience with it was like.
Did you get burned out on it?
No, it was just a drunk night. Like it wasn't
Been there.
Like I probably shouldn't. You know, Knob Creek's pretty good and decent price, like a little higher end on what I was drinking for.
You know what? I think you've talked about this on the podcast before. Like one of your frat brothers brought over a bottle of Knob Creek or something.
It might have been.
It's reassuring.
I don't think that was.
That's what we want to hear.
Well, I don't think that's what I was. I don't think I've ever talked about this before on the podcast.
Fair enough.
But anyway, it was just that was my really only experience with not my only experience,
sure.
But my first experience was just shooting Knob Creek. And looking back on it, I'm like, what was I doing?
My first experience with Knob Creek was Knob Creek Maple.
You know what? I think mine was too.
Yeah,
actually.
Knob Creek. It's not bad. It's just it's not bourbon. Yeah,
anything maple is kind of interesting to me.
Look, I would venture to say it's barely even whiskey, but that's
Yeah, it's pretty much just like syrup.
It's not good. I bet it'd be really good in like a syrup for pancakes.
Yeah, it makes okay bourbon balls.
Oh, that's right, it does.
Yeah.
Did that on a live stream as well.
With Knob Creek, I always think that the proof is higher than what it is.
What do you mean? Like you don't think it's 100 proof?
No, I always think it's like, wow,
Interesting.
this is like 115. Like, to me, it's, I don't know why I always get that feeling.
Well, the single barrel's 120.
I guess that's maybe why, but it's not because I have the single barrel. Every time I have it, I just think that Knob Creek is this bold, super strong, like high proof bourbon, and that could be that's obviously totally wrong. It's just
No,
I
don't think so.
do it.
I don't think so at all. I think that it's still very bold.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it is a super well-rounded and presentable whiskey.
Mm.
And in this case, I have a hard time finding anything wrong with it.
Yeah, this is a very good. This is a really good introductory to Jim Beam,
Oh, absolutely.
because the white label is not exactly reeling you into Jim Beam. The Booker's is intense for anyone that's starting out, and then you have this, and it's just a nice, well-rounded. It's got everything you want kind of bourbon.
Yeah.
So it's a good introduction to Jim Beam, because I know when I first started, I had Booker's. I was like, Perry, it's not working out, man.
It was the same thing that happened with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, I mean with Swan.
I guess if I'm trying to get into like kind of higher proof bourbons and whatnot, I feel like this is good. I don't know. Usually, I never have you smell a bourbon like a high proof bourbon or something, and like you go, whoa.
Right.
Like you smell the ethanol on it, or like on something like that, and I never smell the ethanol. Knob Creek is my wow. I smell the ethanol.
No, I actually, you know what's funny though? I'm there with you on that one.
So I guess that's
definitely smell the ethanol.
I
on
like
this one.
Knob Creek. I think it's good. It's just that's one thing I always notice is I'm like, man, the ethanol is so strong.
Yeah, and I never grabbed this offering on the shelf because the picks. Let's be honest, man. The picks are phenomenal.
I'd rather spend a couple more dollars. I say a couple, and it's like 15 or 20, but I'd rather spend a little bit more to get a really good Knob Creek single barrel pick.
Mm.
And I think that's unfortunate because this is such a good standard offering. And having had the non-age stated Knob Creek recently too, it still holds up. It's not like there was a change in quality between the age statement being removed and all that, like there was with Elijah Craig. I mean, this has stayed consistently good ever since they took the 9-year age statement off of it. Now, that being said, I mean, I can understand, I definitely can understand wanting to go for something like the single barrel. I'll be honest with you, though. I don't know the last time that I had just a standard Knob Creek single barrel.
I don't even know where to find one. Like a lot of the stores that I go to, I can't find it.
You can only find picks?
Yeah. And I'm not
I just
complaining.
heard 1,000 pairs of eyes roll into the back of their heads because they're like, "Oh, we never get picks up here."
Yeah, I know. It's now I feel bad, but no, it's. But like, I mean, you can go in stores, at least in Kentucky, and like they've got 14, 13-year picks. I saw a 15-year at one place.
Mm-hmm.
They've got them all over the place, and they always do the single barrels and 120 proof.
And I mean, if you can find it, for me, it's not just about that age. Sure, a 14 and 15-year-old bourbon at that price point is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
But, and 9 times out of 10, when you go into a store and you ask them, well, what did it come out of the barrel at? They're not going to know the answer to that question, but I still like to ask it. Because, I had the experience where I was on a Knob Creek barrel pick, and it came out of the barrel at 121 proof and was bottled at 120.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is as close to a barrel proof Knob Creek as you're going to get. Knob Creek single barrel.
You'll like this. They're actually starting to send out placards of a diagram of the warehouse showing where the barrel came from, the proof it came out of the barrel.
Really?
Everything, yeah.
Huh.
And so,
Have you guys gotten one yet?
yeah, I'll
Good.
take a picture of it and send it to you. It's pretty cool. It's really detailed. So they're really putting a lot into their single barrel. But going back to the small batch, this is just solid. It's right up there with me with Jim Beam Bonded. It's just another solid. This one feels like it's got a little more heat on it.
Oh, it definitely
And
does.
I think, to your point, saying that it's hotter, I think it's because we're all used to Heaven Hill with their bottled and bonds at 100 proof.
That's a good point.
And they're all just nice and mellowed and like creamy and caramely and stuff. This one's got some punch, and it's the same proof.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Knob Creek just has some punch. It has a little bit of this like burnt oak char to it.
For somebody that's just getting into bourbon and is still making the bourbon and cokes, I think this would fare better than some of the Heaven Hill stuff because you need a little bit of that punch.
Let's do it blind.
Oh,
See,
You don't want to do a bourbon and coke blind?
they're dangerous, man.
If you're doing bourbon and cokes, I think putting Knob Creek into it, yes, that makes sense. I don't know. I could be the only one here and be total. I just am not. I like Knob Creek. I think it's good. It's just not
in your wheelhouse.
It's not in my wheelhouse.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
It's just not my palate. It's not my. Like, I want it to be a little sweeter, a little
more Heaven Hill.
a little more mellow.
Yeah. Well, what about E.H. Taylor small batch?
I truthfully don't think I've ever had E.H. Taylor small.
What?
I've
Seriously?
I've seen the bottle 1,000,001 times. I don't think I've ever had it.
All right, Kurt. Strap in.
All right, cool.
Strap in, buddy. This is happening.
But that's how my palate goes to is I like to have those notes of like char and oak and stuff.
Yeah.
But Knob Creek to me just feels like burnt.
This is my personal...
Which is totally just me. Like, I don't think it's totally just me, but it's my personal preference.
It's your preference.
Yeah.
That's what matters. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get across is not like it's bad.
Oh,
like,
of course
don't
not.
Do this. It's
Absolutely
just,
not. Yeah.
Like, it's just not me.
So this is probably about the third bottle of this that I've had. I'm talking about the E.H. Taylor small batch. This is actually the first one I opened. This is one of the ones that I've been trying to see how opening up affects it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll see what you guys think.
So speaking of that, somebody was saying on Twitter that in Fred Minnick's book, Bourbon Curious, and I don't remember this from it, but he said try the same bourbon every day for a week. Each day for 7 days to see how it opens up. And I think that would be actually a really interesting experiment to do.
Yeah.
I think the closest you've come to that is probably the Old Ezra Barrel Proof because you just kept going back to it.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I had it again the other night in a Glencairn. And not that I was finding it to be as flat as it was when we had it on the show or as it was for a couple of times after that. It just didn't seem to provide the punch or the excitement that it did when I had it in the Norland glass. Like I still found it lacking. I don't know. It's such an enigma to me. And I don't know what to do with that bottle. Also, if anybody wants a bottle of it, I have an extra. And
It's apparently getting hard to find.
I
have no idea.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I have an extra. So
I might take you up on that.
okay.
We'll see.
We'll chat about this after. I have an idea.
I got you.
All right, Kurt, we got to ask you because you've never had it.
Never had it.
Excuse me, E.H. Taylor small batch. What do you think about the nose?
It's light.
Interesting.
It could be because we're coming off the heels of something you considered stronger.
I think so too. Yeah. Take the inside of your elbow and smell that, and it'll help you kind of reset your nose.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Have you never heard that?
No, this is the first, man.
I do it all the time. It helps me get reacquainted, get reassessed. See, before I did that, I mean, like, I wasn't picking up some of the more barrel-y notes on it.
Yeah.
But, it's really kind of presenting
That's
them.
how it was for me, too.
Yeah.
I still think it's light.
I think so, too. But
I'm not saying, it's not like, I'm not catching any of those notes.
Sure. I think it's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. This has got more nuance than anything else we've tried so far, to me.
I think so, too.
And maybe that's what my palate goes towards, is a nuance of something. It's just it's like mellower, just has a little bit of a sweet note, but also comes back to a oak note. It also has like a little in between.
And it's definitely sweet.
Yeah,
it definitely has a sweetness.
That's
to
why
it.
that's why I think for me it's a little too sweet.
This
for
is
my
too sweet
palate,
for you?
For my palate,
All
I
right.
want something like in between, man.
Okay, I have an idea. We'll do a 1-to-1 blend of Knob Creek small batch and an E.H. Taylor small batch.
Okay.
For you, because I feel like that would be where that's supposed to lie for you. So
yeah, and I really think that is. And I feel like this podcast, I'm really like, just like back and forth on it.
No, man, you're just dialing in what you want. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what these people are theoretically doing with their small batches anyways. They're taking barrels that maybe didn't make the cut for single barrel and blending it to make their own profile.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, you're just doing some extra
like,
work,
I just want
man.
something in between.
Yeah.
I don't know why this podcast, though, this specific one, I'm like not finding. I just am literally not I'm like, well, that's not what I want.
Okay.
But that's not what I want either.
So let's. This is really kind of off topic, but it's all right. Just let that sit for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you come back to it towards the end of the show, and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
So with the E.H. Taylor, I always get like kind of a tobacco-y thing that
Yeah,
I don't get in a whole lot of other stuff. Coupled with like a lot of like fruit, but like almost candied fruit. I don't know.
Yeah, because there is a sweetness to it.
Yeah, it's like oak and tobacco and like a candied fruit, and I don't know. Sometimes I haven't got it on this bottle, but I've had another one that I almost got like almost a licorice, but not a bad. It's just like a really, really light. So it's got a whole lot, and it does its paces too. It changes while it's on your palate. And I've not gotten that off anything else we've really tried tonight, other than the Black Ridge. I got a little bit of it.
Sure. So the first bottle of E.H. Taylor that I ever got, it was definitely an outlier. It was nothing but caramel apple. This is totally different from that. And what's so weird about this goes back to our consistency thing. Every time I've had E.H. Taylor small batch since then, it's not tasted like that. It's always tasted like this general, I say general, but I mean it in a good way, kind of profile with E.H. Taylor. Like it actually has the bourbon qualities to it with the caramel and the oak and yada yada. Plus some of those layers and the nuances that we were talking about as well. But I think that it is still worth noting that despite the fact that you can, work it down to a T in terms of what you actually present in the bottle, there is still room for human error.
Oh, yeah.
And a small batch could still wind up being inconsistent with a flavor profile or with a brand's expression or whatever. So as consistent as we may say small batch is, there's still that slight room for inconsistency.
Is Noah's Mill a small batch?
That is a good question. I think probably
believe it
so.
Because I've noticed that myself and both Chad and Sarah have said that their older or like their first bottles of Noah's Mill tend to stand out as ones that they like more. And since it's gone on, they've not found one they like as much as that first one they had. So, I mean, going back to the human error part of it, not saying that they messed up, but they could gradually be changing the profile over time. to fit whatever their new small batch is.
So they don't necessarily say that it's a small batch, but what it says on the bottle is this batch of bourbon.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Which I still assume is a small batch, but it's
and
whatever.
That could have been completely an attempt of their previous age statement was 15, which is
right.
It's up there.
Yeah.
So if you needed to get it from like 15 down to like 12, down to 10 to 8.
Could you imagine having two products at that point that were both age stated? Johnny Drum and Noah's Mill were both 15 years old.
That's insane. No, I couldn't.
I mean,
do it.
how do you survive on that stock? I mean, you're
hope that no one buys it. That's pretty much the only thing you can do.
But you also have to hope that somebody's going to buy it so that you can make money to keep paying the taxes on the barrels that are sitting in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And
You're
you
playing
stay
a
awake
dangerous
at night, and
And then
you have bad dreams.
you
even
put the
when
price
you do fall
up,
asleep.
and then like, well, maybe that
Sell the
happened.
Willett family estate for 3 times the normal
Yeah,
retail.
exactly.
That stuff's insanely expensive, but apparently it's great. I've not actually had the chance to try some of it.
Have you not?
Yeah, not
Even
the one
just
with the
the-
purple foil up at the top.
Oh, the bourbon.
Yeah, the bourbon.
Have you had the rye?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But no, that stuff is apparently phenomenal. But no, just
I've had one of the bourbons. It's
I
pretty
mean,
good. It's
but
pretty good.
I could imagine that your small batch would change if you had to go from 15 down to
Oh, for sure.
something lower. And I'm sure it's like that with a ton of different small batches.
So to kind of wrap this thing up, and this is based on our experience here without actually diving too far into the world of single barrels. Based on our conversation, based on the points that we've made so far, what would you guys prefer to buy or drink? A small batch bourbon or a single barrel bourbon? And I'm not saying necessarily a single barrel pick. I'm talking more like a single barrel they can just go to the store and buy.
As an everyday, like, sipper, like, this is what I want to drink,
I would say just in general.
just in general. Okay.
Because sure, I mean, if you are thinking in terms of everyday sipper, take that into account. Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, somebody puts the same offering, but one small batch and one single barrel in front of you.
Yeah.
What would you choose?
I think how I would choose is, do I want something that's consistent, that will have the same profile for the most part, that will be specific to what I want, that I know and will be able to like guarantee like, okay, this is what I'm going to want and what I'm going to like. I would go small batch all day. If I want something that, okay, every bottle I pick up might be different, I think I'd go more single barrel.
Yeah.
For me,
I don't think I can choose.
Yeah, it's hard. For me, it sometimes would depend on distillery, but in general, I'd have to say small batch. And that's only because I'm thinking, like, the bottom shelf stuff that I love, a lot of it's small batch. The top shelf stuff that I love, also small batch.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think that they're not doing single barrels of George T. Stagg or William LaRue Weller or
Yeah.
even the
Wouldn't that be the dream?
yeah, or even the what was it? Four
valid.
Roses limited edition.
Yeah.
They put that small batch right on the front of that. They're proud to call it a small
Yeah.
batch. Some of the bigger releases they do every year, they're very specific in saying they curated the best blend they could possibly come up with for 2018, 2019. So not only looking at the consistency, I would look at just the fact that sometimes small batch can lend you towards changing the profile from just one barrel to what you actually wanted out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too, especially just in terms of, whether or not you feel like you're getting your money's worth.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of it all, a single barrel that's not necessarily a pick, just a single barrel on the shelf, is in essence a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we alluded to it earlier. Chad's single barrel bottle of E.H. Taylor is crap. I mean, seriously, just straight up crap. we've had bad barrels of Blanton's before.
Yeah.
We've had a bad. I've had a bad bottle from a single barrel of Weller 107 before. You know, it is just. It's a shot in the dark. So I would say, you know, if you are more of a consumer-based buyer, consumer, you know, if that's where you are at headspace-wise when you're going into the liquor store, you know, you might be better off buying a small batch instead of a single barrel.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And what you said, like, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for a single barrel, if you're looking for consistency, that's where I'm kind of like, or this is the best that you're going to have, then small batch.
Yeah.
Single barrels, like it's kind of like the lottery a little bit. I mean, you hit more often. You hit more often than not, I feel.
With single barrel?
Yeah.
Wait, what kind of lottery are you playing?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
I
feel like with single barrel, you're gonna hit more often than like.
I think that's fair.
Like you would the actual lottery.
Yeah.
But single barrel has a chance of being. This is going to be like something that you don't want to get rid of ever.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna like the Henry McKenna 10-year that we had from way back, man. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's still a little
the
tiny bit left.
Specific barrel, specific like that's something that's we're not going to ever have again for the most part.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing. Like going back to you mentioned.
That's the cool thing about single barrels.
Yeah, you mentioned Monica. I think she posted in your Patreon or somebody said she had a picture of a case of Henry McKenna, or like 6 bottles of it. Every one of those is going to taste different.
Yeah.
That's the gamble right there.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
It's a great gamble to have, especially when you get 6 chances at it.
I did a whole live stream where I was trying different Henry McKenna single barrels.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had 2 that were barreled on the same day and 2 that were barreled a day apart.
Mm-hmm.
And the variance in consistency was insane. And quality, for that matter. I mean, there was, it was crazy. I mean, there was no. It was kind of hard to choose a winner, but I mean, sure, I had my favorites, but still, the point is that, you know, every single one of those bottles tasted different from the one before.
Yeah, so and that's where I see general consumer. You're going in, you're wanting the like what you had the last time, small batch.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
If you're going in, you want to like take a gamble. You're feeling lucky that day, like
go for the single barrel. Yeah,
both have their pros and cons.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, like I said too, we'll come back to this topic when we talk about single barrels in the future. But I would love to know whether you prefer small batch or single barrels. So hit us up on social media at My Bourbon Pod. Let me know. Do you prefer the small batch over the single barrel, or the single barrel over the small batch? And again, we will talk about this topic again in the future. But until then, we have more work to do.
Yes.
And that work involves drinking more bourbon.
Can I just say that it's my favorite thing that I get to call this work?
You know, I could probably write most of this off of my taxes.
Please do. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
I need to start keeping receipts on what bottles I get.
Oh, man. I got you. I'll be your bookkeeper.
So Curtis texted us on the way over to the house, and he goes, which expression of Booker's should I get? Should I get the Kathleen's Batch, the Backyard Barbecue, or the Kitchen Table?
Kitchen Table, the Chew, the Kentucky Chew.
Oh, did you say Kentucky Chew? Oh, okay, I apologize.
It was that.
I apologize.
It was the Kitchen Table, Kentucky Chew, or Kathleen's Batch.
Yeah. And my immediate response was the Kitchen Table, because this is the one I've had the least experience with.
Okay.
And neither of you guys have had this one before either. But, you know, I had originally planned to review something else on the show as, you know, to tie in with the small batch. But the more I was thinking about it, and the fact that you presented that to us, I was like, well, what better way to cap off a small batch episode than with reviewing a bourbon from a line that established small batch as an expression in bourbon. So this is Booker's Kitchen Table. It was the final release of 2018-04. Kurt, I'm going to let you talk about some of the stats on there because you have the bottle as well.
So some of the stats is that it's 128 proof, so 64%.
What a jump, by the way. We're going up almost 30 proof points.
Yeah. 6 years, 8 months, 7 days is the age statement.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I like I said, I've only had this once, so let's.
It's the highest grade.
So last night, by the way, when I was having my small batch excursion, I had two bottles of Booker's, and I also had the.
Hold that thought, Swan. Or not? No.
We're close. Not quite.
Okay. It sounded good in the headphones.
It's the artificial cork, you know.
And I also had
go ahead.
The Little Book. I had all three of those. Vastly different. Crazy how different they are. I mean, they can put out 4 batches of Booker's, and you would honestly think this is the classic Booker's profile, but somehow they are all extremely different. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they all come with a cool little card. If you haven't picked up a bottle of Booker's yet, they come with a little card in the box that tell you percentages of where they got stuff in the warehouse. And
so maybe Curtis could tell us what the
I will
different percentages are.
Let's see. 7% came from the 4th floor of 9-story warehouse E. 14% came from the 5th floor of 9-story warehouse E. 24% came from the 5th floor of 9-story warehouse J. 44% came from 6th floor 9-story warehouse J. So it looks like, about 70% of this came from warehouse J.
Thanks, warehouse J.
We love it.
I don't know beam warehouses the way that I do turkey warehouses. Like Eddie came out today and he goes, "Well, I got a couple barrels from Rickhouse K," and I go, I was like, "Oh," and he goes, "So you like K barrels?" And I was like, "Love them, everything." And they've been on a real good kick recently.
Yeah,
that's an aside.
So this says this batch has a beautiful color that is a deep chestnut and has a robust flavor-rich taste profile. The nose is a rich balance of vanilla and oak that comes from aging in white oak barrels for more than 6 years. The finish is balanced, pleasant, and does not overpower. In Dad's honor, I've enjoyed this batch with a healthy splash of water, also called a Kentucky tea, which was one of his signature ways to enjoy his Bookers. I don't know if that's a standard thing that they put on these. Kind of seems like it a little bit.
We'll add a little bit of water as well, too, towards the end, just see how it kind of opens up. My first impressions of this, it is very ethanol-y on the nose.
Yes, it is.
I did a little bit of a double take there, too, after smelling it for the first time. And, I'm getting more acclimated to it. This is the first time that, I've...
Yeah.
I haven't had anything this high proof yet today or tonight. So this is a bit of a shock to the system.
It definitely is, yeah. But with that, some of those more traditional bourbon notes shine through.
So Swan did something there just a second ago that I kind of forgot about doing when I nose things. And that's to give a little, I don't know how to say this, a little blow into the glass and then immediately smell it afterwards. So,
yeah.
Yeah, the idea is you're just blowing the ethanol vapors out of the glass and then immediately get back in there.
So much. It helps so much to uncover the richness that is on that nose. My goodness. Now I'm starting to pick up a berry note on there too. There's almost a French toast note on there too. Mm-hmm. That I honestly don't know if I've ever gotten on a bourbon before.
I can't wait to taste it, though.
Swan and I already have.
Oh man.
Ooh.
So I'm happy that we had Knob Creek, not necessarily immediately prior to this, but prior to this,
Yeah.
so
To
that our
get us-
palates could kind of be accustomed to that Jim Beam profile. Because now what's interesting for me is that this is filling in the gaps that Knob Creek seemed to have been leaving out. I'm getting a brittle note there too. There's some honey that's shining through too as well. The finish is unbelievably long. I mean, it just feels like, and I know I already brought up honey, but it feels like that really slow drip of honey.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts, in the top of the chest and then just very slowly expands before it hits your stomach.
Yeah.
And that really slow Kentucky hug, I think is
It's
awesome.
like a slow Kentucky hug and a bourbon bomb.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
I don't know if that's ever been said, but I'm sure it has. But like a bourbon bomb, I noticed like after the finish, like it's so long, but then my mouth starts to like it feels like it's exploding with bourbon.
The mouthfeel isn't as nice as I would like for it to be. I would like for it to coat a little bit more too, but it doesn't necessarily keep me from enjoying the overall palate of it. I mean, honestly, this is a fantastic product.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the two that I had last night were 2018-1, the Kathleen's batch,
Yeah.
and the 2017-3, which are,
Is that front porch batch?
I think so, which are two of
Yeah.
my favorites
Yeah, that is.
I've been able.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And I gotta say, man, this is holding up to both of them pretty well. It's pretty good.
I think this beats both of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had all 4 batches from 2018.
I think the only thing that either of those does better is I think the Kathleen's batch leans towards the chocolatey notes a little more, and I tend to like those. This one, though, the whole palate experience and the finish.
And I do
It's
still get some
awesome.
chocolatiness in there as well.
Yeah, the
But-
Kathleen's batch is just overwhelmingly
Yeah.
chocolate to me.
Mm-hmm.
This
one
is
is-
good.
Well, like you said, the brittle.
It's very brittly.
It's very brittly.
Yeah. And I
Nutty
there is
kinda.
that standard note of nuttiness that you get on Jim Beam products. This is so specifically a peanut brittle
Yeah.
that I'm totally all about. I think it's one thing to go, it's nutty. No offense, Chad. Because but like when you're able to go, it's nutty in a specific way.
Yeah.
That's where I get excited about it.
Because when you say it's nutty, you can go multiple different ways. Like, okay, is it like peanuts? Is it
Right.
cashews? Is it,
Yeah, and I mean like
which
on
is so specific. Like,
but I mean like on
you get into
turkey.
the, like, oh, well, you know, like, and I hate that. I hate that kind of feel,
but on turkey like I
But
get
this is specifically
yeah.
like a peanut brittle.
Yeah. But on turkey though, like I get an almond, like almost almond butter at times.
Yeah.
And that to me is kind of characteristic of older or more aged turkey. So anywhere from like the 12 to 15 or 17 year. But I always get some of those cashews and peanuts
Yeah.
on Jim Beam products though.
I just got a note off the nose, and it was kind of like a beef brisket.
Beef brisket. Interesting.
Like a smoky, I mean, not specifically like a smoked meat,
But it does
But
smell.
it was like a smoked something.
But it does smell like a steakhouse kind of bourbon.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like I would think that this, and I mean, I think I've said this before too. This is, Booker's just kind of in general is for me a very good steak bourbon. I think that it is really good for, Swanson night, as Swan used to have.
Exactly.
Swan, I have to ask you, did you reverse sear those steaks?
No, I didn't. No.
Do you know about the reverse searing process?
Yeah, I've seen it done.
It's the best way to cook steaks indoor.
Yeah, I need to get on that one, but no, I did not. It's good to have a Swanson night, and if somebody doesn't know what that means, it basically just means Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec.
I wasn't sure, but I was like, it has to be Ron Swanson.
There's a scene specifically that I like to reference where they spook him into he's going to have a birthday, and he's so against the birthday thing with the cake and the balloons, and the whole episode they're alluding to like, that's what we're going to have. It's going to be great. Cake, balloons, the whole 9 yards. And then they put him in a room, and he's got a steak, his Lagavulin 16 that he likes to drink, and I think like a Western. And they just let him sit down. And every once in a while, I'd have like a night where it's just nothing but steak, bourbon, and some TV show that I like. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's good to have them every once in a while. So.
You know what's funny? Have you ever had Lagavulin?
I have, yeah. Not for me. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how people do it. I actually picked up a bottle of it. Not the 16. They just did a Game of Thrones release of it. That's a 9-year.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's still peaty. It's still rough. It's still hard to get through. And the strange thing is, it's not high proof. Kicks you in the palate like it is, but it's not high proof. It's not for me. I know there's people that are gonna kill me for this because a peaty Scotch is something that they really love.
This is my bourbon podcast, not my Scotch podcast.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
But it's very, very different. I would recommend trying it once.
Sure.
Once.
Sure.
Was this what's it look like? What's the bottle look like?
It's very plain. It's literally just a green
and this is
glass
the Game
bottle.
of Thrones, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
there's
it's not the
versions.
Yeah, so there's the Johnny Walker White Walker.
I saw the White Walker, and you can find that.
Yeah, this is completely
multiple
different.
places.
This comes in a tube.
These are in just white tubes with kind of Game of Thrones-esque artwork
Yeah.
on the outside of them.
Yeah.
And
Which is what I've been looking for. Do you know where I can?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I'll tell you off air.
We'll talk. Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
Swan the Bourbon Finder.
Scotch Finder. Now I need to make the page. But no, I'll tell you where to get them off air. Some of them are worth trying more than the others, from what I heard, especially for bourbon drinkers, because they're not super peaty. And
Yeah.
people tend to.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy kind of the peatiness, so
might be for you. The only thing and another turn off for me is the cherry wood smoked barley thing that you didn't care for too much.
Womp
They're
womp.
very high barley. Like they've got a lot of that kind of
yeah.
flavor to them. So if the cherry wood was fine with you, but the barley wasn't, it might scare you off a little bit.
Speaking of which, they're of the Masters collection at Woodford.
Yeah.
They just released the what was it? I wanted to say it was the American
Select Oak?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Select Oak. Have you guys tried? I think it just came out the 19th.
Sorry, Chris Morris.
What?
Since he listens to the show, I have to apologize to him
That you haven't had it?
that I haven't had it.
Oh, I mean, it just came out the 19th.
I know, but
Anyway, I saw that at Total Wine as well.
yeah.
And I thought about getting it, but I didn't want to spend the money, and I wanted to. I wanted to go for
Right.
a little more small batch Booker's type deal.
So as we were chatting, I don't know if you did, Kurt, but Swan and I added water to ours.
I did not.
Have you tasted it yet?
It really flattens it out.
It keeps the heat and gets rid of the depth.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
Glad I didn't add water.
Yeah, no, you were totally right to do that. So I think that our best bet at this point, in terms of reviewing, is just to give our scores based on it without water.
yeah, I agree.
Speaking of review scores, though, we do have a review system on the podcast, and that is a 4-tiered system of nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5, and then we total everything up for a total out of 20. I don't know why I said total there twice, but it's all good. And then you should know whether or not you should buy this. So, does this one feel like more of a thinker to you guys?
It's been, yeah.
Like,
a little bit.
this has been, I mean, not that, like,
I'm going to pour a little bit as well.
not that I'm, like, going, oh, am I torn between whether or not it's good or bad? It's just, where do I fall on this? You know, because there are some really...
I really like it.
I do too. But, like, this almost seems like it's... I don't want to say out of my wheelhouse. But it seems like it's offering something that I'm not used to. And I don't know how to approach it.
To me, it feels like a special release, and it shocks me that it's just a standard.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And, you know, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, so if you haven't already watched the recap of, you know, Chad's 2018 bourbons, this one made it up there pretty high.
Yeah,
and I can see
it
why.
did.
There's definitely something a little more special with this than standard releases, and even looking at other distilleries like Stag Junior, I would argue that this is, you know, even kind of outshining some of those releases. Not all, but some. So it's different. I think it's going to be divisive for some, and it makes me kind of question whether I should score it high or not. But I'm going to score it how I think it should be.
I got to be honest with you. This is one of the highest scoring bourbons I think I've ever given.
Really?
And there is one category in specific that I don't think I've ever given this high of a score to.
Huh. All right, well, let's start with the nose.
Yeah, let's go with the
Harry.
nose then. I gave the nose a 3.5. I think that it was approachable, but at the same time, without having to give it, a little bit of work, then is when it became really enjoyable.
Okay.
So, sure, it was nice with that ethanol flavor on it, but once we did that little blowing to, try to get rid of the ethanol vapors, that's when it became enjoyable for me. So my thinking here is, should I have to work this hard to enjoy it? And sure, I mean that it's a very, arbitrary idea of work.
Yeah.
But I would rather have something be presentable immediately instead of me having to fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you on the nose, Kurt?
On the nose, and I honestly kind of forgot about the ethanol that we were talking about at the beginning. Yeah. Just because I feel like after I had a few sips of it, when I kept nosing it, I didn't realize that as much, the ethanol. Yeah. So I gave the nose a 4.
Yeah.
I just really liked how, so after the ethanol, I guess that's where I would dock it. And that's why it wouldn't be like a 4.5 or something like that. The ethanol's, it's prevalent at the very beginning. But then I started getting the caramel, the sweeter notes.
Yeah.
But then, even after I took a couple sips, I started to notice that brisket note, which is something I've never experienced. And
yeah,
maybe it's not just brisket, but it's just like a smoked meat.
Sure.
Smell, like a smokiness. And that's why I'm giving it a 4. Is just I really enjoyed that, and that's something I've never had.
Sure.
In a bourbon before.
I gave it a 3.25. Taking after Chad here. I thought it was good. The ethanol was super apparent. I don't like the idea that I have to work to get the smell of, like the nose of a bourbon.
We're in the same boat.
I had to blow in the glass to kind of get it. The ethanol was just super, super apparent. I think that's really off-putting, especially for people trying to reach for higher proof bourbons for maybe the first or second time, or even people looking for, comparatively like the Kathleen's batch that's a little more friendly and inviting and chocolatey, but still has that ethanol. Comparatively, this is a little harsh. Once you get past
that's a good point. Yeah,
it's super friendly. Has some great stuff. The smoked meat thing that you have, it's there. It's a little light, but it's there. The tobacco and caramel notes are definitely in there, and those are that's something I really like. So I gave it a 3.25.
I give it a 4. I am such a fan of it. It has so many layers that ease into each other so seamlessly. Like it just feels like one big enjoyable roller coaster. You know, like you're being brought from point A to point B, but everything complements everything else. Mm-hmm. It doesn't compete with anything else. And you're just left satisfied with it. Not so satisfied that you don't want to go back for another drink, but satisfied enough to where you can just accept how good that was. You know, and I this is one of the better palates I've had in a really, really long time.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I'm going to give it a 3.75.
Okay.
I hate to get into the 0.25.
Everybody else is conforming to that but me, and I don't know.
I don't know why.
It's all good.
I think with that is there were so many layers in that I really liked them. Got a lot of the peanut brittle like we were talking about.
Yeah.
I felt like that was the prominent kind of palette that I was getting. Those were the notes that I was getting. But I lost some of the smokiness that I was looking for. Not like a lot at all. Like the palette was really, really good. So I think 3.75 just because I really like the nose.
I think that's a fair assessment, though.
And honestly, I could probably bump it up to a 4. Like I'm not that picky enough to be like 3.75 to a 4, you know. So let's just go 4. We'll go 4.
Okay, fine. You talked yourself into that.
Yeah, I talked myself into that. I really like this. It's really good.
Swan, what about you?
I thought it was great. I mean, my complaint about the Booker's 30th was I kind of got like it was in 2 stages. This one really feels like it's one long, continuous, slightly changing
and that's
stage.
Where, yeah.
With a nice building heat, like on the back palette, that immediately transitions into the finish. So that's where I thought it was great. So I'm going to actually give it a 4. I think,
we all agree on the palette then.
Yeah, I think the only thing holding it back from a 5, honestly, is that building heat can get a little bit much. The proof is really good. I'd like to see it hold up to some water, just a little bit.
Yeah.
See, but then you add water in.
No.
And it falls apart.
Yeah, because there's some Elijah Craig barrel proofs, and not all, I'll give it that I would say palate's probably close to a 5 for me. You could put water on it. It's like you're having a different bourbon.
Yeah.
And it's, you get different notes. It's just a whole new animal. That's something that I'd like to see in this. And you get it in some Bookers.
Yeah.
Maybe just not
absolutely.
this one. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Finish, though, like I said, I've never given a category this category. I'm giving the finish a 5.
Oh.
This is the best finish I think I've ever had on a bourbon.
Whew.
And I know. And I know that there are things that are going to, come to me in the future, and maybe I'll go back to other finishes that I've had in the past. But as it stands right now, this is everything I want in a finish. And I had talked about it earlier. It's a slow burn. It drips through your chest into your stomach. It's still expanding on flavors that you were getting on the palate. You're still kind of getting excited by it too. Like you're still wanting to find more things. You're not, getting bored by it or anything. Mm-hmm. I just think that this is a quintessential finish for a bourbon. And I don't think I have anything else to say about it other than that, is that this is easily the best finish I've ever had on a bourbon. I mean, I'm
wow.
I know, and like
Okay.
this isn't something either that I think about regularly. You know, I taste a bourbon and I go, oh, it's so good up front. It's so good, you know, and then I
but then the finish is like, oh, it's too short.
it's
or
a
not long enough.
finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can still kind of pick it apart, and you know, but then I go, oh, it's this, that, and the other. But I've had such a visceral reaction to this one, and I've still been able to pick it apart.
I think Perry's in love.
I've never been in love with a finish before.
You're in love with one. Do you want to write a letter? Like a love note?
Dear kitchen table.
Yeah, for real.
What is hell? Anyway, go ahead.
I've been in the war for...
We lost Swan.
It took me a second, and then I was like, "Oh, I get what he means. I got it now."
Anyway.
What do we mean? I'm just joking.
Kurt, what are you giving the finish?
Finish, I'm going to give it 4.5. I'm not as on it as you are. But it really is like just that Kentucky hug. It's long, it's strong. It opens up the flavors, and I think the finish is actually what opened up the nose for me, and that's why I think I gave it a 4. Was the finish was strong enough to like open that up to have some of that smokiness, some of that smoked meat. So yeah, I mean it's a really good finish.
I gave it a 4.5. Not as in love with it as Perry.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's.
Well, that's why I married it, and you didn't.
Yeah. You're writing it letters. I'm not. Anyways, I like kind of the sweeter finishes. This didn't have that. It's kind of the stronger, like smoked meat, as Kurt mentioned, and it's got some sweetness to it in the palate. I just don't see it as much in like the finish. The hug's great though.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I don't think you can really beat that. There's some I've had that are equivalent to that, where it kind of almost feels like you said, honey dripping down your chest. That's fantastic. I don't think you can beat that at all. I like a little bit sweeter, so that's a personal preference thing.
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. Yeah. And you actually bring up a good point too. Is that I like having multiple people at one time talking about their own personal experiences with reviewing a certain bourbon or a certain whiskey, because not everybody's palate's going to line up.
Mm-hmm.
So you may really love Evan Williams Single Barrel, I may not. But you will know that, and Kurt might love it. So
that's kind of how, like the Knob Creek, you guys were like, oh man,
right,
it's so solid.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just missing a few things that I think the Booker's is like, this is filling in those gaps multiple times,
like I was saying,
what I want.
Yeah, absolutely. Price wise though, I gave it a 4. I know that Booker's had a price hike recently.
Okay.
I mean, recently within the past 2 years.
Yeah. Which one is that price? Just to
like $70.
I
paid $60 for it.
It was supposed to kind of jump from like a 50 to like they said high end 80.
They said like 80, yeah.
And then everyone freaked out, and most places have it for like about 65 to 70.
Yeah. So I got this for 60. What was interesting to me was the Kathleen's batch was 70.
I could see that. I mean, as it gets older, it gets harder to find.
That's the thing, is that I think that Total Wine is a little inconsistent with the way that you're going to be able to buy stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're more bourbon like heavy, so they understand that some places aren't going to have Kathleen's batch. They're going to have whatever's newest on the shelf.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Kroger Wine and Spirits that it's just Booker's. It doesn't matter what batch it is. It's just Booker's. They could have something from 2000 and
and that's
10.
one thing I noticed. And I went to my local Kroger, and it was just like, hey, this is Booker's.
Yeah, but that's kind of how I feel about it too. Is that at that price point, and it's providing all of this experience with it. And I think I've actually given it because we reviewed the front porch batch on the show before as well. And
I think we also
I think
the
I
Kentucky
gave it a 4.
Chew a little bit too.
Oh, I don't know if we reviewed it.
I don't think we reviewed it, but we had it.
Right, but I'm just saying that at that price point and the quality, I still gave it a 4.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea is that Booker's as a small batch bourbon is consistently consistent.
I like that. I feel like Booker's is just consistently consistent.
I think it is too, and
with a hint of special.
But once you factor in the age, you factor in the proof, you factor in the amount of work that has actually gone into establishing it as a product.
Yeah.
I think that at $70, there's nothing wrong with that. It really breaking it down. Yeah. I think it's fine. I mean, like I said, I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 4 as well.
4 for Kurt?
4.
I was very consistent. 4, 4.5, 4.
All right, so after totaling everything up, I gave it a total of 16.5 out of 20. Curtis gave it a 16.5 out of 20.
Yep.
And Swan gave it a
15.75 out of 20.
So we are all within the same kind of realm of, you should probably go find this if you can.
Yeah.
Look, there is nothing wrong with this bourbon other than the fact that, you have to work a little bit harder at times to find what you want to find with it.
Yep.
It's not perfect, but this is, I think, the quintessential small batch whiskey.
Yeah.
Which is...
It makes you think.
It does.
It makes you think, well, maybe. But what happens if... And, it's kind of that bourbon. For me, anyway.
And that brings us to our favorite segment, Tips and Bits, where we give you things that you should probably go and check out. So, guys, what do you all have for Tips and Bits this week?
So, for mine, I'm going to give True Detective Season 3.
So, is it better than Season 2?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear.
100%. Mahershala Ali does a great job. Yeah, sorry. I didn't pronounce it right. That's okay. He does a great job at bringing it back to where it was in Season 1.
Good.
If you could just forget Season 2, and that's kind of what I have done, is just forgot Season 2 ever happened, and then just essentially this is their reset season.
Good. That's good to hear.
We're only 3 episodes in, but the first season was on the brink of me saying this is the best season of TV I've ever seen in my entire life. With Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson.
Right. Yeah.
That will always be there. This one's right next to it. They're having a reset season of we're getting back to where we were. It's going to be similar to what you saw in Season 1. And then hopefully what I'm hoping for is that they're going to progress into Season 4.
Sure.
And kind of expand that.
Right.
Because Season 2 just, man, they really dropped the ball on that. Vince Vaughn, really?
I think he is so overrated.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly. I've never thought that he is good.
I haven't either.
Sorry,
but
Vince.
The casting on Season 2
maybe
was
Vince
really
is a
bad.
big bourbon fan. He's listening to the show. I'm sorry.
The casting on Season 2 was really bad. The whole season was just really bad.
Right.
I will forget about it. This season holds up to Season 1.
Good.
It's not better or as good right now, but it
holds
there.
up.
But it's right there.
So before Swan goes, I want to talk about this for a second.
Okay.
And it was only because I just happened to bring it up. But I really want to get, at some point, just ultra celebrity somebody on the show
Okay.
who drinks bourbon.
That'd be so cool.
I mean, just because.
Do
I
you
mean,
know?
not to
Do you know
like,
anyone?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I do.
But
Matthew McConaughey, apparently.
I do. Matthew McConaughey, and then also Kaylee Kuko apparently is a big bourbon fan.
Really?
oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
She
Yeah,
comes to
so-
Kentucky regularly too.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So if she listens to the show, send us an email. This is mybourbonshop@gmail.com, and we'll have you on because I think that would be awesome. I know she works with Hartfield and Company out of Paris, and that would be awesome.
Yeah. And
But-
I'm pretty sure she's worn, like, Kentucky for Kentucky and, like,
Oh,
shop,
yeah, she
and
absolutely
shop
has.
local
Yep.
and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. That's just I wanted to throw that out. Swan.
Mine's kind of a weird recommendation, but sticking with the TV theme, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Does anybody watch
Oh,
that?
I love that
Yeah.
show, dude.
Oh, I just
It's
started
so
it.
good. Oh, really?
Yeah, I
The
blew through
first
all
season?
of it.
Oh,
Oh, wow. You already knew. Okay.
Yeah, it was great. I think the third season was probably my favorite. I really liked that one.
that's when they really found their stride.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the first one is like they're just kind of trying to figure out what they're doing. They have a really strange concept. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
It's a good concept.
Honestly, I think it's a great concept.
Strange. But it's fantastic. That whole show is solid. It's one of those classic shows where they take characters and it's somebody you know in life cranked up to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
And every character's like that.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's just it's a fun watch. Stick through the first season, first couple episodes. They're introductory and a little rough, but it gets
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yep. So, my tips and bits are, I would say, a little bit outdated, but we just started watching The Simpsons all the way through.
Okay.
Simpsons World on FX?
No, Hulu TV.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we started from episode 1.
Yeah. Same
And,
here.
I mean, we're
this is wild.
I have, yeah, you've talked about it on the show before too.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed the crap out of it.
It's so fun.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know that, like, the early episodes are a little bit rough and everything, but man, it's so good though.
Yeah.
And it's really good to kind of fall asleep to, and it's not like you have to pay attention to the plot to follow up with on the next episode or anything. It's just overall so funny.
Oh,
and I
it's
hate that I'm
solid. Yeah.
this behind on The Simpsons. But
Yeah, because it's like
God, it's so
it's
funny.
on its 30th season or
Well,
something.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
Come on.
The other thing, and I did not know this until after I bought his album, but Mac Miller's birthday was on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought his album on Saturday.
Okay.
Just without even
Which
knowing.
album?
Swimming.
Okay.
Without even knowing that was his birthday or anything.
Yeah.
So Mac Miller, for anybody who doesn't know, was a hip hop artist who passed away this past year. But I've always had this weird kind of like,
And too soon. Just
and oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I've always had this weird like, I've not been able to express it, like inexpressible connection to Mac. But I felt really compelled to just buy his album that day. It was really weird for me. And then my sister, I saw the next day, had said, on Instagram, "Happy birthday, Mac." And I was
Yeah.
like,
What?
what?
Yeah.
It's a freaking fantastic album, though.
Have you listened to Blue Slide Park?
No, I've not. Okay, all right.
You need to listen to Blue Slide Park.
That's what my tips and bits are going to be next time.
Wow.
So, all right,
That album,
good deal.
really good. That's when I first started listening to Mac Miller.
Yeah,
Was Blue Slide Park.
I just think that he is. I mean, I know I got into the game way too late.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, way too late. But I mean, he was so talented and did so many things right that even if he's not able to make that kind of music somebody else will in his footsteps. So,
Yeah.
that's it. That's all for tips and bits. I know I got a little heavy there at the end. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But thank you all so much for listening. Where can everybody find you guys on social media if they would like to do that?
I'm on Instagram at the Bourbon Finder. Shoot me a message if you want help finding stuff. I'll see if I can direct you in the right area, especially in Central Kentucky, and post regularly. Hope to see you there.
On Instagram, I am Kurt Con, and on Twitter, Kurt_Con15.
And then if you want to follow me personally, I am at pritter1492 pretty much everywhere. And if you want to follow the show, we are at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Guys, are there any other plugs that you want to throw out before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, can I give a shout out to the Mash and Drum?
Yes.
Watching his stuff.
Absolutely.
He's awesome, man.
He is.
He is so informative on some of his stuff. I had no idea that they were doing the Rutledge Distillery until he mentioned it. And
Really?
yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So there's stuff that like even a regular bourbon drinker just flies over my head, and he looks it up and he puts it out, and he gets good releases, does awesome streams with good giveaways and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's live every Wednesday night at 9. So if you're looking for
He is.
something to go into on Wednesday night and Thursday night, as if you need an excuse to drink bourbon.
There you go.
Come hang
And
out
Sunday
with everybody, man.
afternoon.
Exactly.
I kind of forgot about this, but
I did too.
Curtis has his little blend between E.H. Taylor Small Batch and Knob Creek Small Batch, both at 100 proof. What do you think about the nose there, Kurt? Is it what you were looking for?
It really is.
Oh my gosh!
I kid you not. I'm not joking. Like, this is exactly what I was kind of looking for.
What are we going to do? What do we do from here on out? I don't know what to do
We
with
don't
this
drink it.
information.
We just sit there.
Okay, well, taste it
just
too, because that's the important part here, I think.
Like, it's exactly what I want. It combines the E.H. Taylor of the sweetness and then has the Knob Creek of the smoky, the oak, the char. That's exactly what I want. I kid you not. I'm not making this up.
No, I totally believe it.
Swan has something to say here.
What'd you make a candle out of it?
I would most definitely make a candle out.
I broke Perry.
I broke Perry. All right, we're going to try it. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I will say that on the palate anyway, the Knob Creek a little bit is the predominant side of the E.H. Taylor, which makes sense. It's going to be the more bolder flavors. But it's good. It evens
really
it
does
out.
yeah,
it evens
exactly.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
You want Swan?
Yeah, I'll get in on this action. Let's go.
Yeah, may as well.
The finish.
Let's go.
I think the finish is where I'm like, I want there to be a little more.
I think so too, but I think the palate is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blended really well.
It did. I would like to give it a couple of days.
The finish
too.
is the only thing that I'm kind of on,
Yeah,
but
that's
everything
how I
else is
was.
good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The finish is kind of roller coastery.
Yeah, it feels like it's
Like it
swapping
doesn't-
back and forth.
Yeah, like it doesn't
Yeah.
start out very good, but it hits some good notes. And then it kind of, exactly. It swings back and forth a little bit. But
Which I wonder if, as we let it, air out a little bit and kind of blend, if that would do something.
that would be a good little small batch blend there.
Yeah.
For anybody. So another small batch.
Yeah.
But that's kind of
All right,
more
so-
of what I was looking for.
So here's what you need to do. You need to buy a bottle of E.H. Taylor Small Batch and then a bottle of Knob Creek Small Batch and just, pour half into one
And then,
and then half into the other. And then that way you have exactly what you're looking for in a bourbon.
Mhm.
Anyway, okay. So that about does it for the episode, though. Is there anything else I forgot?
Nope.
All right. So, give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes. That really helps us out in terms of other people finding the show. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, and please do, you can head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can help keep the show going. Every single month, you get bonus content as much as special live streams and bonus episodes that are coming out. You get to vote on topics for upcoming episodes, which is going to be happening very soon. I promise that. We have a really nice little community that Swan is actually a part of as well. Just about every day, there's people talking about new things. So be sure to get in on that. Bourbonshop.threadless.com is where you can find all of our apparel and merch. We have free shipping until the end of the month. You can use the code FREESHIP191. That's, again, FREESHIP191 on orders over $45. Straight to your door from Threadless. Bourbonshop.threadless.com. Screw that up. Sorry. No.
Free shipping, though.
Yeah, again, link to the tickets for the very first live show, again, are in the description below. So be sure to go and check that out. That about does it for us. You guys have anything else before we get out of here?
No.
Okay, great. Well, then we will see you next week. But until then, I'm Perry.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Swan.
And this is My Bourbon Podcast.